Hey, Guy and Rob from Pendergrass Academy of Martial Arts. All right, hey, so this first technique, all these are going to be from half guard. And for the first one, this is one of the first things we always teach our students. If we can, we'd love to go to the back, proper positioning of everything. So we'll cover that super quick. So from half guard, again, as most people know, we don't want to play, and we're talking traditional half guard. We're not talking about a knee in the hip or a high knee shield. This is just kind of a traditional half guard. Maybe you figure four in your leg down there. Proper positioning is we want to be on our side. Even though some people think they're on their sides, they're not really on their sides. This shoulder should be underneath this shoulder. And as you can probably see from your angle, this shoulder's too far this way. This shoulder's too far that way. So I want to make sure I bring my elbow towards my ribs, pull my shoulder back so that I'm more 90 degrees to the floor. I have a proper underhook. There's different ways you can play this. You can play high, you can play low. For now, we're just going to keep it high. I like a palm up grip on the opposite knee because if I can keep his weight out, it's hard for him to push back into me. So I love to be able to push this knee away because if he can get his knee close to my ribs, he can tend to flatten me out. So by pushing this knee away, keeping a high underhook, and keeping my shoulder back and on my side is a great way to start positionally speaking, so that he doesn't flatten you out and buys you time. Now, first technique we're going to look for is we're going to go to the back. I would love to keep my partner's weight high as I can. If he's able to settle his weight back on his heels and drive his weight back, that's where it's going to make it difficult for me. So I'm constantly looking to force this underhook high as I can. One way you can do this is we're going to kick our free leg south as we punch our free hand or underhook hand north. So guy has his weight a little bit settled back. That little bit of counter pressure actually helps me a little bit. So we're going to kick both in the opposite direction. And as I do that, I use that momentum to come out and underneath, and I pull my head out. So I go here, I'm up, I immediately go to the elbow. I do that in one motion. So with this, I'm not grabbing. Be mindful, a lot of people make a mistake and they put a hand on the lat or they grab somewhere on the back. I'm not touching anything. I'm literally spearing my hand forward. And in one motion, I came out on my side and I came up on the elbow. From here, I hug the back. I want to make sure he doesn't throw this arm back in front of me, so my chest goes towards the shoulder. I hug his lat and his back, and then I come up on my knee for support base. I get my seatbelt grip. I either drag them to the back or I climb up and I put this hook in. Either way, whichever you prefer. It's kind of a judgment call. So that would be technique one in terms of proper positioning, where everything needs to be, and then a basic go to the back.
So this next technique is going to be a basic counter to the going to the back technique for half guard, where your partner puts in a whizzer or an overhook.
So when I'm in the half guard here, okay, and I have my underhook, I'm playing a traditional half guard. I'm blocking that bicep so that he doesn't hug my neck and get me to go flat here. So I'm blocking that bicep. I'm grabbing that far lat, and my elbow is relatively high here. So that way he doesn't, it's harder for him to settle his weight back like Rob referred to, right? Now, when I'm attempting to go to his back, or even before I start the process, he whizzers or he overhooks my arm here. So that's gonna totally block. It's a very common response to the underhook position and the potential threat of going to his back, right? So when he does this, there's a lot of ways to deal with this. A very basic way is to reach through and grab your partner's hand. Where do you go? Like palm to palm. If he's got a gi on, you grab the sleeve, whatever. But the main thing is you trap this arm and you pinch your elbow to your own ribs. Then I'm going to switch my leg positioning here. So my left leg is no longer laced over. My right leg is over now, and I'm going to drag his ankle toward me as I shrimp my hips underneath him, right? To get his weight over, and as I come up, I can retract my right leg, and then I can come up on top. I can keep this arm under if I want to force a back take, or I can pull this out, go over the shoulder if I'm looking more for side control.
So now we're going to look at what most referred to as the old school position. There is a version, I'll do a version where we trap the foot. I think I will do one next where you don't trap the foot, but just give you some basic mechanics of that. I do want to go back and point out one thing. We were talking about positioning. The very first video, we talked about keeping this knee away. Traditionally, most people would teach block this arm so that you don't get cross-faced. But if we do this
and he goes to try to cross face me, he's just going to lose. He can't, because his weight's so displaced that when he tries to do that, he'll find himself feeling like he's losing his balance. So it's not going to be very effective. So that's why it's okay to do this, just FYI. All right. Now, as far as old school goes, what we're looking to do is I need to get as low as possible underneath him. Right now, I'm kind of high, especially if I'm trying to take the back. This is where I want to be. But typically when you're playing half guard, we do want to be a little bit lower, almost like ear to sternum. So I want to be down here. And what we're looking is to try to trap his opposite or his free leg here. Sometimes in a traditional sense, we're looking for this underhook arm to reach and grab this foot, but sometimes it can feel like it's really far away. So what we want to do is, and again, originally when this is taught, you grab the shin ankle area. The problem with this initially is that if he sprawls or stretches his legs, it can be very hard to keep a hold of. So when we do this, I would love to grab, almost like I'm going for a toe hold, I want to grab the pinky toe right down here. So my fingers are covering his toes. So now if he tries to stretch his leg, it's very mechanically hard to do so. From here, again, I would love for this right hand to go around his outer thigh and reach over to double up on his foot. But as you can see, that could be a little far. So a good little detail to get him higher up on you is to open your half guard just slightly. Instead of reaching for his foot, we actually just grab our own ankle, which you can always grab. Your right foot, in this case, the free foot, is going to plant on the floor. And then I'm going to use that to sort of pull him. I'm grabbing my ankle and I'm going to pull him and I bring his weight forward. Now I can catch this all day long. From here, we're going to switch our legs. Right, the outside leg comes over. Okay, you can even pull it a little bit so that as we come up, the free leg comes out and underneath, and we come up almost like a dogfight position. We grab the knee, and we just put them down. We run them over, and then from here, it's your decision on which way you want to pass. It's always a good idea to go to the backside. But sometimes you might need to run to the front side. Depends on how he reacts. But once we get up on top here, we pass. I like passing the foot to the other hand, like I talked about earlier, going under. And then we can use the foot and the upper body, the shoulder, to rotate him and turn him away. All right? And that is the old school pass. But a little detail as far as getting their weight up.
Okay, guys. This one is what we call the new, well, I call the new old school. I learned this one from Gordo a few years ago. Guy known for, half guard and BJJ, right? So in this scenario, like Rob was saying, we have an underhook, and the goal is going to be to grab the toes here. However, unlike the traditional old school approach, we're not going to double up on his foot, okay? The left arm is going to maintain an underhook, right? And then the right hand just grabs the toe. From here, I'm going to switch my legs. And just like in a previous technique, we're going to drag his ankle toward me. All right. As I start to come up on my shoulder, I want to pull his foot underneath him. And then that's going to allow me to get my elbow to my side and come up onto my knees and my elbows. From here, I just push into him here, and then I'll step and walk around, just like Rob mentioned in a previous video. We can switch it up. I mean, you can keep the arm under, force him to turn away. We can bring this over, whichever, whatever scenario you want to play out at the end. The more important thing is coming up on top and finishing that. So one more time, we have your partner in the half guard. We have the underhook. We're blocking this. Perhaps you go to this like Rob mentioned, right? But ultimately, we want to get our head low and look for that foot here, okay? Keep your head connected to your partner. If your ear is not connected to him, there's a strong chance, no-gi, that he can cross-face you, right? So if I reach and my head's low, he can take this and still smash me, right? Or if my head's disconnected and I had a gi on, he could try to do a Bravo choke, basically a gi dart choke, right? So we want to keep our ear connected, grab the foot here, and then we'll switch. We'll drag as we pull the ankle up from underneath him. I continue to pull his foot away from him, and I step over, and I come around to the side as I secure my top position. All right, guys? So that is what we call the new old school. All right, guys, so this is what we call the forehead to the mat pass. We learned this one from our instructor, Gustavo. So Rob's down. In this scenario, we assume that the knee shield's not an issue.
we're closing the distance, we get a chest-to-chest connection, and we're able to get our partner flat, okay? Now this left knee can be relatively close initially, right? But ultimately what we're gonna do is we're gonna transfer our head from this side to the opposite side, and we're gonna put our forehead on the mat. When I go to do that, I'm gonna cup his deltoid, keep my elbow kind of tight, and transfer my head this way. You can even push his head out of the way a little bit and make space for your head to go here. Once I have that, I'm gonna tripod up, okay? Once I tripod up, the variation I like is where I take my left hand and I just kind of keep this leg in check. Right now, it's so far away, I can't even reach it, so it shouldn't be an issue. But if Rob tried to bring his right leg through like he wanted to replace his guard, this hand keeps that leg in check. Then I'm gonna make a step, knee slice out, and finish the pass here. So ultimately, we finish with a knee slice pass from the half guard, right? So one more time, we have the underhook, we have the head positioning, and we're keeping our partner nice and flat. We transfer the head to the other side, forehead on the mat, okay? I'm gonna start to tripod up until my knee is out from the line of his thigh. Once this knee is poking out, that's the indicator that I can start proceeding with the knee slice pass, right? From here, I'm gonna make a diagonal step. Knee slides away, hip goes to the floor. I pick this elbow up. I sit through. If my foot can't come out for some reason, I like to put my foot on the bottom knee and push to free my foot. And I'm here in a modified case katami position until I can switch my hips back and get back to a kind of a standard side control position, right? So that is what we call the forehead to the mat pass. So I got a half guard pass we're going to work on. We actually use the free leg is going to hook their thigh, and we use that to extract our leg. So it looks kind of like this. Show you a couple details that I like. So we're here, same thing. In half guard, our goal is to always flatten our partner out. The longer, when we talked about or we covered details of him wanting to stay on his side as long as possible, that's in order to become offensive and to sweep me or attack me, submit me, whatever. So my goal is to, when I'm inside someone's traditional half guard, I always have to get an underhook. I always want to get head control, and I always want to flatten them out, right? So from here, what I want to do, if guy kind of pinches his knees together, right, which he's going to do anyways, right now, you notice his right knee is pointed upward, where it's off the mat. What we want to do is we want to hook, but sometimes when his leg's up in the air, sometimes it may feel like you can't find it. And even if you can find it, sometimes in order to get the hook in place, you may have to lift your knee off the mat. And when you do that, you might feel off balance. So I don't like doing that too much. So when he pinches his knees together, they're naturally going to point up towards the sky. So what I want to do is actually try to get his leg, in this case his right leg, the one closest to you guys, I want to get it closer to the floor so that when I do put my hook in, it's not so off balance feeling. So what I'm going to do is post my left leg out, and I'm going to drop my right hip, the one that's in between his legs. I want to drop it closer to the floor here, right? So it's almost like I'm sprawling. This knee's up, almost like a knee on belly. So I've got a lot of weight on my right hip, forcing this leg closer to the floor. Now, from here, wherever this feels natural to be, you should be able to drop your knee, rotate, and your hook should go right in place. Okay? From here, we're going to get up on our right toes. We're going to sprawl his hips up using counter pressure with the left hook. And then we're either going to slice straight to mount or do a cross cut pass, switching to the side control position. All right? So that's a good one in terms of using the hook to do some counter pressure to extract the leg. You don't have to lift your hips up too high, so you're not going to off balance yourself too much. But really try that detail of dropping your hip to the floor to get their knee closer, so you don't have to go looking for that hook. Cool. If you enjoyed this technique, we'd love for you to like it, subscribe to the channel, and we'll check you out on the next video.